Hello there. Today I saw the film How to Train Your Dragon, and now I want to discuss it with you. It's a live-action fantasy adventure recreating the magic of the 2010 cartoon. The story follows a Viking boy called Hiccup who befriends a dragon named Toothless. Together they set out on a journey that will change the fate of both of their kinds. Dean DeBlois wrote the screenplay and directed the film, which stars Gerard Butler, Mason Thames, and Nico Parker. How to Train Your Dragon is a hero's journey that follows Hiccup as he learns to embrace Toothless and a new way of life. It hits all of the same emotional beats and is consistent with the humor and storytelling style of the original. The story contains Disney morals, a bit of light humor, and action in the form of dragon fights and dragon riding. It takes place in a made-up medieval Viking village called Berk. It's a northern European village along the coast that is constantly under siege by dragons. The Vikings there dress like cartoon Vikings with silly horned helmets and excessive weaponry. Most of what you see is made up of live actors working on a green screen set, with a few real set pieces here and there. Behind them are CGI backgrounds of scenic landscape shots. They also use CGI to create the dragons. The cast play stereotypical Vikings. They like to fight, they live to slay dragons, and they can't imagine any other way of life. The story focuses on Hiccup, a young Viking nerd played by Mason Thames. Thames plays him similarly to how Jay Baruchel did in the cartoon. He's unconfident, awkward, but desperately wants to fit in with the other Vikings. He's supported by Nick Frost playing Gobber the peg-legged sarcastic mentor, Nico Parker playing Astrid the tough but gentle Viking woman, and Gerard Butler as his rough but loving father Stoic. They're supported by a soundtrack filled with Celtic orchestral music, complex instrumental tracks that appear to flavor the film and support the emotional journey as needed. It's loud, proud, and ever-present, which brings me to my review. The live action does two things well. The story is executed properly and exciting, and the cast does a fantastic job of their roles. Its visual journey and soundtrack are just okay. Starting with the story, it's a fantastical hero's journey set in a world of dragons. The story itself isn't all that deep, hitting on a lot of common tropes, but it drives home the emotional journey in a consistent, exciting, and satisfying way. The characters are likable heroes with a serious problem. The danger they face sees them fighting off dragon attacks, learning to ride dragons, and eventually fighting alongside them against a much bigger dragon. The story keeps a solid pace, introducing little bits of humor and action while steadily building up the emotional journey to a big finale. It's fun, heartfelt, and has a few good lessons at the heart of it. Cast-wise, there aren't a lot of performances, but the ones you get are pretty great. The supporting cast play comedic, cartoon Vikings, and they do an awesome job with the humor. I was constantly laughing at all the little side jokes like Snotlout trying to impress his dad, or Gobber sarcastically chiding everyone. When it comes to the main roles, there's a lot of great emotional work too, mostly from Gerard Butler and Mason Thames. The two of them are asked to play out a strained father-son relationship and do a fantastic job making it feel real and raw. Mason Thames as the misunderstood Viking nerd was true to the original film and did a great job making me sympathize with his plight and getting me to root for him on his journey. He's a witty hero that doesn't rely on nastiness to achieve his goals, and Thames plays it softly and confidently. He's personable, shows off great chemistry with the rest of the cast, and he does a fantastic job with the emotional beats. Visually, the film isn't much to write home about. It's actors playing around on green screen sets, and it doesn't look that good. The CGI is fairly low quality in terms of its textures, and the sets are simple and cheap looking. The CGI dragons are okay, but they still look like cartoons rather than real dragons. Often I found myself wondering whether a film like this can ever look better in live action than it does in cartoon form. It just doesn't seem possible with today's technology, and unless we invent real dragons to ride on film, I doubt we're ever going to make them look anywhere near as seamless and personable. Sound-wise, the film makes effective use of its tracks, but also doesn't mix them properly. The instrumentals do add a ton of Celtic flavor, and they add a metric boatload of emotion to the journey. The problem is that the songs often come in either too loud or too quietly. which leaves them either drowning out the conversation or barely audible. When they get the volume right, it sounds great, but the rest of the time, it's just a distraction. They also threw in ambient noise like the wind blowing or people in the crowd talking, and often these sounds weren't mixed properly either. Like during one conversation, there's a big emotional moment happening, and all I could hear was the wind whistling behind them. This loud, piercing noise that just keeps going and going. Personally, I enjoyed the live-action version of How to Train Your Dragon despite its flaws, but I would recommend the cartoon over it. The cartoon medium just suits the story better. They can make both the human and dragon characters have a personality, and they don't have to sew two different art styles together. They still did a decent job of this film, just not good enough to surpass the original. As for a rating, I'd give this film a 7 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Bye-bye.